U.S. embassies in the Middle East are evacuating non-essential personnel. The State Department order came after Iran issued a threat to U.S. forces in the region.
In Gaza, workers from a humanitarian aid group were brutally attacked by Hamas. Chris Mitchell has more from Jerusalem.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation released a statement saying Hamas targeted their workers. On Wednesday night, Hamas brutally attacked a bus carrying more than 24 members of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's team. What we know is devastating. At least 8 fatalities, multiple injuries, and fears that some of our team members may have been taken hostage. GHF says the workers were Palestinians working to deliver critical aid to needy Gazans. Since its operation began, the organization has delivered nearly 19 million meals. It's calling on the international community to condemn the attack, which they call a crime against humanity. Senator James Lankford posted on X called it the ultimate sign of Hamas's oppression against their own people. Tensions are high in the region overall. The U.S. State Department has ordered the departure of all non-essential personnel from U.S. embassies in Baghdad, Bahrain, and Kuwait due to unrest. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth authorized the voluntary departure of military dependents from locations across the region. Speaking at the Kennedy Center in Washington, President Trump said they are being moved out because it could be a dangerous place, and we'll see what happens. Iran's defense minister said he hopes nuclear talks will yield results, but if not, he warned the U.S. that all its bases are within our reach. We will have access to them, and we will target all of them in the host countries without hesitation. While the 6th round of talks are being scheduled for this Sunday in Oman, Trump is expressing skepticism about whether a deal can be reached. On the podcast, Pod Force One, Trump stated,
I'm getting more and more less confident about it. They seem to be delaying, and I think that's a shame, but I'm less confident now than I would have been a couple of months ago. Something happened to them.
Jonathan Conricus of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies believes the time for diplomacy passed long ago.
After 15 years of diplomatic efforts and with unequivocal evidence that the Iranians are lying and they are trying to build a nuclear bomb, action needs to be taken.
Israel reports it's recovered the bodies of 2 more hostages in Gaza, including Yair Yaakov, who was killed in Hamas's brutal October 7th invasion of Israel. Meanwhile, Israel's Knesset voted down a bill that would collapse the government. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, it looks like we're getting ready to go to war, and that is a very serious matter. And the evacuation of the embassy personnel is in advance of that. From my point of view, it's about time that we awaken to the ideology behind the Iranian regime. They've been after us since they started in the 1970s, and I'm old enough to remember the hostages from our embassy and how tragic that was and how ineffective the Carter administration was in trying to either negotiate their release or send in special forces to evacuate them. It's about time we awaken to it. Here's something that many people don't know about Islam. Under the tenets of that religion, it is perfectly okay to lie and deceive infidels. It's permitted, and not just permitted, but encouraged. So when you see Iran on the public stage saying we just want peaceful nuclear energy, it's okay for them to lie on that stage because they're secretly developing nuclear weapons. It's permitted. It's okay for Hamas to claim atrocities by Israel, that these rocket attacks that they launched against their own hospital, or what we just saw, where they murdered fellow Palestinians in order to stop the distribution of humanitarian aid. Why? Because they wanted to control it. They wanted to sell it, and get more money for more weapons to attack Israel. That's why it's okay for them to say from the river to the sea, and nobody called them, well, that's calling for genocide. And it's okay for them to label Israel a genocide state when all Israel is doing is defending itself from these horrific rocket attacks and the October 7th attack. They're more than willing to lie to us and deceive us in order to gain their ultimate end. The ideology hasn't changed. They want to completely occupy Israel. They don't want Israel to exist anymore. They've said that for decades. It's about time we believe them. And in that declaration, in that ideology, if they ever get a nuclear weapon, they will use it. And they will use it first against Tel Aviv.